Hello.
Hi.
Welcome to the Cold Bar, folks. So, Renee,
Yeah,
we got a good one this week, don't we? This month, I mean,
we're gonna find love and
mm,
ascend.
in a hopeless place. Sorry. That song kind of works in this context, doesn't it?
Yes.
Oh, man. Not in a good way. Not in a good way. Not in a good way. So, yeah. Well, before we start, let's get libations out of the way. What are you drinking?
I'm drinking a True Love's Kiss. And it says pineapple or cranberry juice. I thought cranberry juice would be prettier. It's actually uglier. So we'll see how it tastes.
Okay. Well, it looks, I don't
It's
know. I don't think that
good.
looks bad.
I was thinking that the pineapple would taste better. I think this is pretty good because the cranberry cuts down some of the sweetness of the Chambord and Grand Marnier.
Hmm.
So it's really nice, and I'll probably have another one sometime, just like because.
Hmm. All right. Well, mine, I went with Easy Jesus, just because. What a silly name. And we know the cult leaders all like to.
He's the easy Jesus. He's like,
Yeah,
look, I look like him. Isn't that enough?
yeah. So basically, 2 ounces of brandy and 6 ounces of Dr. Pepper. So I like how it says Dr. Pepper soda or Dr. Pepper. This is the recipe I found. So, and then
Maybe
at the end it says fill to the top with Dr. P. Like, who the hell says Dr.
how many
P?
different ways do we need to say it? You can say Mr. Pibb if you need to say Mr. Pibb.
Yeah,
Guys.
if you're really going to go that way, all
Or
right.
Dr. Thunder for those of us who bought our soda in 3-liter bottles.
There is that. So, yeah. All right. So, how about before we get into our cult, why don't we do some news?
So this one's actually really kind of wild to me because UK is small.
Yeah.
And so they did this study like in a survey form, and they found like there's at least 2,000 groups that hit some or all of the qualifiers for a dangerous cult. People who were born into high control groups, who were recruited into them. We're talking slave labor. We're talking sexual abuse, isolation, as it says there. Um, and the interesting thing about this story is that the organization that conducted this study is trying to get UK law to expand their domestic violence laws so that they can apply it to high control religious groups. Because right now, basically, it's not illegal to be a cult. These
Yeah.
people don't get arrested for being cult leaders if they get arrested. They get arrested for like tax fraud, non-payment of wages, if they commit sexual crimes, things like that.
Mhm.
But this would actually give power to law enforcement to just be like, so what if we cannot prove that they did XYZ? We can prove that they're operating in an abusive way. And that could really change a lot. Like that's the thing we see over and over again in these documentaries is that people kind of have their hands tied when it comes to doing something about these groups. So it's very interesting. I suggest taking a look at some of the numbers because, like I said, it's pretty astounding given that the UK is like tiny, compared to the US. And we're not talking about all of Europe. We're just talking about that little island off the side. So,
Yeah, that's fascinating because I would think that number would like, oh, well, that makes sense for like the US, which is really massive, not for like the UK. That's
what makes you wonder what our numbers would look like, which is scary because I know that we're probably doing it bigger and better in this particularly shitty category.
it's possible, man. It's I don't know.
The good news is we'll be able to live stream forever.
That's true. That's true. So we have plenty of content to bring you folks.
Yeah, a little silver lining, a little bright side. It's fine. It's cool. Like, don't worry about it.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, what we're going to be discussing this month is Escaping Twin Flames, which basically Twin Flames Universe is this ostensibly a thing for singles to try to find their ultimate lover. There were 2 docuseries. We were going to kind of mainly used the Netflix one, and we'll use the Amazon Prime one, which was called Desperately Seeking Soulmate, which was a very apt title to me. But so we're going to primarily focus on the Netflix, but we are definitely going to be using the Prime one for reference for things too. So, yeah. Why don't you give us our trigger warnings, Renee? Because we got a few.
Boy, there's some things that I don't have like vocabulary for on this one. So obviously we're talking about high control groups. We're talking about spiritual abuse. We're talking about unpaid wages, slave labor. We're talking about isolation from family, like we said. An implication of sexual abuse. I don't think anyone comes right out and accuses anybody of sexual abuse, but I think you'll get what I'm talking about as we get a little deeper.
Yeah.
Some really, really strange but clear transphobia, which is like going to be hard to explain, but we're going to try.
We'll do our best.
And relational abuse, domestic violence, drug abuse, mental health, like stigmatizing in mental health.
Yeah.
I think that's it.
Yeah. I don't know. What
if you have like a particular thing where like you can listen to all the Jesus stuff, but the New Age stuff is going to freak you out, be aware of that because we're going to be talking about both tonight.
Yeah. It's there's some things we're going to need to talk about with the New Agey and the God stuff and all that because there's a pipeline I want to touch on about that. So, So yeah, Twin Flames. Here we go. Just a quick, real super synopsis before we start getting into some things. Basically, the Twin Flames universe is run by a couple named Jeff and Shalia Ayan, Ayan. They come up with this thing to basically they wrote a book called Twin Flames, Finding Your Ultimate Lover, I think is the actual title or something to that effect anyway. And they proclaim a guarantee that they will get you in a quote unquote harmonious union with your twin flame. Your twin flame is supposed to be the person you are supposed to be with. Absolutely supposed to be with. One of the reporters said they proclaim it to be someone you are supposed to be with throughout all the times and all the previous lives and things of that ilk. It's a big ask to say that you guarantee that sort of thing, considering it's pretty hard to actually find someone you can get along with, let alone be with. But harmoniously, which
we'll get into their definition of harmonious also.
Yeah. So, but yeah, they attract a lot of people who are looking for love. This is the part that makes it really hard for me is the idea that they are.
That's a different cult.
That's definitely a different cult that we're talking about there. So
sorry, I couldn't help it.
Yeah, thanks, Zach. Way to get our show rolling there. But anyhow, now I lost my train of thought. But anyway, they basically are capturing vulnerable people who are looking for love. Usually, this comes off of a heartbreak they've had where they just feel really alone, and they capitalize on that. And yeah.
Is that Zach? Because I can't see. To me, it says Facebook user.
Yeah, that's Zach. I'm looking over and he's in the watching it via our Cult Bar Show group. So yeah,
we would. I think there's two people who make jokes like Zach makes.
Yeah, that one Zach is enough. So yeah, thankfully, and we're happy to have him along for the ride, though. So yeah, basically, this goes through the beginning and where we are today. We should also state that this is not going to come to a resolution on our show because it is still ongoing and there have been no charges filed yet. So yeah, where do you want to start? Because we got a lot of ways we can go.
Quick rundown. So one thing neither documentary covered is what the term twin flame means, like in the New Age internet ephemera, whatever you want to call it, like the orbit of New Age and like witchy shit and whatever you want to call it. So like, I became aware of this term probably like a decade ago, and I didn't think that it had anything to do with romance. When I heard it, and I could have been wrong, I didn't look into it, I didn't care about it. Right. But it was supposed to be like, someone that is like very much like you or like a reflection, you're whatever, like a
Like an actual twin?
Yeah, right. And that's what I understood it to be at the time. I didn't do the research, so maybe I was wrong. But what it started to happen in these new age and witchy kind of spheres is it became like it's like your soulmate, only more. And that it is literally one soul that has evolved so much that it had to split into two. I don't know why that makes sense then, but it does. So this is not your soulmate. This is the other half of your soul. And this is the part that I think that they really should have covered in the documentary, because they talk about how people find Jeff and Shalia, and they come across the term twin flame and they read about it, and then they start searching for more and they find them. One of the things, and this is so powerful for Jeff and Shalia, and you'll see what I mean. One of the things that is supposed to characterize twin flame relationship is that it can often be extremely rocky. There can be a lot of fighting. It can be very unhappy. It can feel like you're very incompatible. But you got to kind of work through that, and then you get to be with the other half of your soul again.
Yep.
And so it's one of the reasons that this term is always like stuck in my teeth is that it's like a justification for staying in shitty relationships that you feel strongly about. Like nobody stays in an abusive relationship because they don't feel strongly. We don't need
to add to that.
Anybody saying that the feeling of love paired with the abuse is what makes it special, because that is not it, guys. And there's a lot of weird, like, I don't know, in previous iterations of the new age witchy thing, like never do a love spell, it's so dangerous. And now like everything is about finding your twin flame and getting your man back and making sure he, you know, whatever. And so it's like a weird shift where I don't know, are we like a lonelier society than we were 10 years ago? Maybe. I don't know.
Well, according to a lot of reports, there is an epidemic of loneliness amongst men. So maybe that's
well, they need friends, not twin flames.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fair. Also, we have a volunteer here.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Do it. I mean, I'm not the person to come if you want to be told no.
No, yeah, and just to be aware, Zach, just so you're aware, the lion's share of the people in this are female,
yes.
or female presenting is a better way to say it. But lion's share of folks and very few male presenting folks in this universe.
But a man joining would clean up. You'd have your pick.
Yeah. Well, according to Jeff or Shalia, it depends on how they determine
it didn't work out for anybody else, but it might work out for you.
So yeah, that was a good explanation on the twin flame, because I
oh no. Let's choke.
Say it's for science, Zach. Say it's for science.
She's doing a favor for Doug and Renee.
Yeah, hey, they just want me to do this. What's the big deal? So, oh man. So how about we do just a quick timeline of where we get to the beginning of Twin Flame?
Sorry. Zach he murdered me. I'm gonna go choke to death.
I know. So anyway, there's this. It's interesting because Jeff is like, the way they position it is that Shalia is sort of the spiritual part and Jeff is the business guy. So, oh boy.
Oh my God.
Okay. Not something you drop it when they're out to dinner. But okay.
In front of their friends and family. So Jeff is kind of like a consummate grifter, right? Like you get the sense that he's always looking for the next get rich quick scheme. Yeah,
and even in the Amazon one, his friend from high school was like saying that he always wanted to be rich. He always wanted to have money and all that stuff. And hopefully Renee's not Renee's okay over there while she's muted. So basically, Jeff he moves to Hawaii in 2011 to just go and kind of do his own thing, and because that was never really properly explained, other than he just went to Hawaii and then he decided he wanted to be a life coach at 25, which is fucking ridiculous. But what the fuck do you know at 25?
I feel like a lot of life coaches are like under 35.
Yeah, I feel like you need to have some real shit happen to you in life before you can get to be a life coach to be able to talk about overcoming stuff.
Life coach or like a coach in that
Yeah.
kind of term is like basically, I want to be a therapist without going to school or being licensed or having any ethical
Hmm.
constraints. And it's like super icky and dangerous and needs to be regulated a lot better. Just my little mini soapbox moment.
That's for certain, because I think they do have some certifications you get to be a life coach, but I don't think a lot of people do them.
And it's not regulated. So you can just not do it.
Yeah, you could just proclaim to be one. So yeah. So basically, he moves to Hawaii. He changes his name several times there. My favorite one was he named himself Ender Ethos because he just added ethos to the last name, which just fucking killed me. Just like, oh, you're an ethos, okay. And he liked Ender's Game,
and he liked it, which is like so. Orson Scott Card, what a problematic fellow.
Yeah, and also Ender's Game. I don't know if you know the author of that, Orson Scott Card, is an extraordinarily problematic human being.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So not the guy you want to kind of emulate. Well, he's kind of emulating Ender, but Ender was also a 12-year-old in that book. So maybe don't emulate a 12-year-old.
Explains a lot, actually.
Yeah. So I think the timeline is around 2012 or 2013. He meets Shalia online. Shalia's name isn't Shalia, actually. Her name is what was it? Something really Megan Plant. Megan Plant was her last name. And she just didn't think Megan was spiritual enough and decided to make it Shalia because that sounds a little bit, new agey. She's in Sedona. They meet. She goes back with them to Hawaii, but eventually they decide to go back to Michigan, where he's from. Never explained why they did. They ever explain why they did that?
Probably because Hawaii is really expensive.
Well, yeah, that I imagine.
But I did want to point out, like, Sedona is like this weird new age mecca where lots of really bad things have happened. Like people are dying in sweat lodges that are being run by white guys and stuff like that. Like it's
of course white guys.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's a great podcast called Guru. Maybe we'll have to cover on the live stream sometime. But yeah, it's like the mecca for this kind of grifty new age shit. You can buy big crystals and do a sweat lodge and probably like drink something that they're saying is ayahuasca.
Which isn't.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, later on, we'll talk about it, but they do end up doing a meetup in Sedona too later on in one of the things. So yeah, they kind of go full circle there. But to go back to Michigan, I'm agreeing with. I think it probably is because it's cheaper than Hawaii, which is enormously expensive. They start building businesses together, and it's like a lot of different shit. Like they just keep. It's like, let's try this. Let's try. That's what it seems like. It seems like they're just trying to throw stuff against the wall to see what will stick. Jeff also claims in one of the businesses that he can cure things like cancer.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. And then one of his like friends from high school is like, my mom died of cancer, and I think it's really like shitty that you're doing this. And he's like, I'm sorry I didn't have this ability to cure cancer when I could have saved your mom.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah. He's like, sorry I didn't have that ability at that time. Like.
Okay. Somebody who so desperately wants his ass kicked. Like that's all I can say about Jeff.
Yeah, we're aware of that, Zach. Thank you.
Come on, I wear my rings every episode. You guys know I know where to get the good turquoise jewelry. Come on.
Yeah. Well, interestingly, like when they first start these businesses, they start like this. They make videos and stuff, but it's really just run of the mill sort of influencer shit. Like. Jeff's really into Overwatch, and Shalia's doing makeup tutorials, which, hey, there's nothing wrong with that. But that seemed to be kind of like the genesis. And then they start getting their fingers out into the idea of like, oh, we really love each other. And I think at the beginning they really did. I'm not sure so much now. But yeah. But anyway, that's kind of where we get into where they start making all these businesses and they sort of stumble into this twin flames idea. So yeah, that's where we get to where the documentary sort of picks up. They talk a little bit about the previous stuff, but one other thing was like when they moved back to Michigan, they moved in with this high school friend, and he talked about just how freaking weird they were.
Like, here's the thing, that just don't. As someone who's let people live with me, just don't. Every time I let someone move in, I'm like, this time it'll be different, and it's different every time.
Well, then you aren't wrong.
Yeah, like adults are not meant to live with each other. You're not meant to do that favor. It's just that's not how it's supposed to go.
Yeah.
And ask his high school buddy who's just like, what? You need to move out.
Yeah. He just got to a point where,
Thing, wasn't it? When he was finally like, get.
yeah. So, yeah. So now they have to do things on their own, I guess. And that's where they decide to publish a book. I have no idea if that was I had to be self-published. There's no way anybody, the publishing house, decided to publish it.
Not to cough into the mic, but yeah, no, like the fact that they didn't say, I feel like says everything.
Says a lot. But judging by the quality of their videos, that I'm going to guess that was a self-published book. And what is it with all these cult leaders like doing these really terrible videos, like really terrible, just super awful quality? Like, I get you have what you have, and you have to use research you have, but like somebody like Teal Swan, who has a lot of money, her videos are terrible. Like, just all these people just make these awful looking videos.
I think it's because they all think that they know best about everything, and they don't. Like, just because you know how to run a grifty business and your girlfriend knows how to make new age claims does not mean you guys are experts in video production.
Yeah.
No,
they definitely are not.
And if you're watching this and you feel like you need to tell us that we don't have the highest quality video on the internet, like, we know.
We're very aware. We're also not trying to sell you shit.
He pays us, so.
Yeah, we're doing this because we like each other's company and it's fun. Oh man. So, and that was actually a comment I actually made in my notes, was like, why are these videos always so terrible?
Why are they doing everything too? Because this is the other thing.
Everything
in these classes, and it's like a Zoom with like however many people, and they record where they're like coercing people into doing stuff that they're later like, we never would ever do that. We would never coerce somebody into doing that. Like, well,
and we have it all on video. We're gonna have to get into all that because there's just so much that they video that they're just like very clearly culpable with things, and they're just, yeah, not great. So there's two couples that I think, one from each documentary, actually, like they focus on Netflix on Keely and Colby as kind of the sort of poster children for the Twin Flames universe. Quickly, just Keely met this Colby guy. They dated for like 9 months, and then he broke it off. So she moves like all the way across the country to her family, and she gets involved with Twin Flames, and they tell her, no, that is your twin flame. You need to go get him. So,
but he's like, yeah. So I'm like, there's some pieces of this story missing. And because it's missing, I have to assume like the sex was just really good. Like that, they weren't working as a couple, but they felt something, and they didn't say what that thing was. So I feel like it was sex, allegedly.
Well, but the Twin Flames people like Jeff and Shaleia talk a lot about sex and how it should be just this massively awesome sex thing that you have. Okay, but sometimes you have awesome sex with people, and that doesn't mean you should be together. It might be awesome because you people are too like
devil dick exists for a reason, people.
Yeah. So, so they become sort of like, they get back together, and Colby buys in, I guess, because she gave him a book, or she let him watch the classes or something. And I'm like, I'm going to tell you, if that was me, like I said, I'd say, here, watch this class, and I watched those two wingnuts, I'd be like, what the fuck are you having me watch? Like, I need to leave.
I'm telling you, I really think.
I think you're right.
You know what? If this is going to get me laid, sure, we're twin flames. And the next thing you know, your whole life and income and everything revolves around this group. And you're like, shh.
Yeah, so that's the other thing about this, right? Is it is an MLM on top of all this, trying to get people to date and try to find their twin flame and make them work for them, like you said. Like, like your whole income is based around it once you get into that universe. So I know I'm kind of running a spiel here, but Renee's having issues with her cough.
Like made me choke on my drink, and now I can't stop coughing. I'm like,
well, thanks, Zach.
I also did recently quit smoking, so my lungs are like trying to. So it's a combination of Zach and cancer sticks.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, I'm glad you're doing that, even though it sucks for your lung capacity right now.
It would be the weirdest stream ever. I apologize. I should have quit smoking after the first Wednesday of the month.
Anytime's a good time to quit smoking, Renee. We're happy you're doing it. So, I am anyway. Okay, so trying to get back through my notes here because they're jumbled because there's just a million things.
Well, yeah, no, they're all
Yeah. So one of the recurring themes for this twin flame stuff is and this started with Keely and Colby, is like they said, you need to go get him. He's in Washington and you're in Massachusetts. So Zach, you're going to have to work on this because you have to be more aggressive according to the Twin Flames universe. You have to go pursue it. So yes.
Can't quit.
Nope. That's the thing. They say you must pursue your twin flame. That is your destiny. You must pursue them no matter what. No matter what.
Here's the other thing, though, is if your wife is your twin flame, then you can go right into the money-making portion of the cult.
Yeah, you can just bypass all this. You can just go in as a couple. You don't even have to,
Because that happens, too. We'll get there. But
yeah. Yeah, so the
theme is like, I met somebody. I really, 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 really wanted to be with them. And I have no doubt that you can make shitty videos.
Hey, join the club, Zach.
And then it went wrong. Usually that person ended it with me, or that person had something that kept them from wanting to be with me, whether that's perceived or true. And they're like, why can't I get over this person who doesn't want to be with me? Which is a valid thing to work on if that's happening to you. And you go online and you're like, maybe if I Google the right thing, there'll be an article from Psychology Today. But instead, it's like some fucking weird ass blog from somebody who hawks expensive crystals. For the record, I collect crystals like I'm not. You can have as many as you want. But they shouldn't, you shouldn't have to take out a second mortgage.
Yeah.
Saying like, oh, it's because they're your twin flame. And then you're like, oh, what does that mean? And you end up in this place. And they're like, no, like for real, that person that you can't get over right now in this very moment is your twin flame. And I got to tell you, like, how many times has the average person been in a relationship that ended and had a really fucking hard time getting over it for a little while?
All of us.
But if you get into this place that's like, no, it's because this time it's different. This time it's special. And we can tell you how to fix it. And instead of getting over this person, you can be with them again. But this time, all the things that made you incompatible will magically disappear. And of course, that's intoxicating. That's like your 1 in a million offer.
Yeah. And yeah, it is super. Like, just if you could be like, yes, but I just can't get over them. Well, you don't have to. Well, that sounds like really great. Like, oh, great. I don't have to feel all this pain again. I can be with this person that I can't get out of my head.
How many times also, right, have you had a problem or something that felt massive, like cosmically huge? And the answer was, well, if I just sit here feeling sorry for myself, nothing's going to change. So I'm going to get up and start working towards solving that. Mm-hmm. And they say, we can do that. And you don't have to worry about the other person because it's all you. And if you do it, they'll just come. It'll work out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They don't help you in this work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they do that mirroring exercise, which is a big tool of theirs to, basically they do this thing where it's like, all right, you need to do the mirror exercise where that is just fucked up.
Oh my God, Zachary.
I think that Hey, that's not a bad thing. It could be worse.
David
Could be
Lynch.
like,
Look, I love David Lynch. I love David. I joined a cult because of David Lynch. We'll get there some other day. But his stuff isn't sexy, man. Oh, let's not talk about the movie. I'm not ready to talk about that. I've never been ready to talk about that since I saw it. Anyway, no, so the mirroring exercise would be like, I'm here and I'm like, I'm upset because Zach has made me cough through this entire live stream. But actually, everything that happens in my life is my doing. And so I would then say, I would change everything so it's about me. And I would say, I'm upset with me for making me cough through the whole live stream. And then you like, why did I make me do that? And you go through this until it works. You got to do it 500 times. Then you do it 500 times. But the point is like, this is one of those things. This is one of those things that I'm going to cough again. It's used a lot. Like, they're not the first people to use this to convince something similar anyway, to convince people that everything is their fault. And that if you have a problem with me, actually you have a problem with you. And there's even a point, right, where Jeff is trying to coerce somebody into something, and I don't want to, no spoilers if you haven't watched it, but he's saying, like, don't you look at me and think I want to be like Jeff, I want to be like him? Because there's this idea, if I can convince you that everything bad in your life is your fault, every bad feeling you have is something that's wrong with you, then I'm at fault for anything. And I'm also the person who gave you this magical tool. And Zach, when your wife kicks you in the balls, what you're going to do is you're going to say, I am in pain because I kicked myself in the balls.
mm-hmm.
And just work through that until it makes sense. Your wife
Just keep doing the exercise, buddy.
We didn't kick you in the balls. You kicked you in the balls.
Oh, man. Well, Colby and Keely aren't the only people involved. There's a host of them. But some of the main ones they talked about, some of them are really sad. Like, okay, he's Rochambeauing himself. All right, good.
With self-awareness.
Yeah. Yeah, there's some really sad ones, like Arcelia really just her story that really just sucks for her. And we'll get to her.
What I would say, I don't know if we will get to everybody. So no. I don't know if you want to just give a quick one on her.
So Arcelia is a trans woman in the middle of upstate New York, in rural New York.
She's in
not an easy. Yeah, she's in both docks too. And that is not an easy place to be a trans woman, a trans person. Is in a very rural, conservative area. So,
and I think with her thing, and I feel like this is like, God, it sucks because she's kind of like the perfect mark, right?
Mm-hmm.
That she gets this vibe from this guy and the conversations they have and the attention that he pays her, that he is really interested in her, but he's having issues because he lives in a fucking rural area and she's trans. And I fucking believe that she's right. She's one of the people, there's a couple, but she's one of them. And I'm like, she's probably not delusional on this. Like, she's probably right. And so she's looking for support on that. And God, how I wish she would have just ended up in like a support group for trans women. But she ended up here. And well, it's your fault. So you just have to fix yourself, and then he'll get over his transphobia and the societal pressure, which is fucking bullshit. He's never going to get over those things unless he does something about it. Yep. And what happens to every single one of these people, for the most part, is they take ownership of things that they're struggling with, and they do see improvement initially in the beginning. And it's sort of like that narrative trick that happens in fiction where it's like, if I show you
the like the bad guy doing something good, then you're on that guy's side for the whole book or the whole TV show or 5 seasons of Breaking Bad. Bless you, Doug. We're a pair today.
Yeah, I was sneezing. Sorry.
But so they're like, well, my life did get better when I joined, and I did feel better, and I was overcoming these things. So obviously, I just need to keep doing it, and the other promises will come true too. And I think, like in Arcelia's case, there's like, God, if you're a person who is dealing with something outside of your control, because I'm sorry, like transphobia is outside of anybody's control except for the transphobic person.
Yep.
If you're a trans person dealing with transphobia, and I tell you, actually, I can give you control over that situation. That has got to be the most intoxicating offer. That has got to be so attractive.
Yeah.
The idea that there's even a remote possibility that it is true could probably make a person be willing to suspend their disbelief and try a little harder for a really long time. And she does.
Yeah. For years.
For years. And, we'll get to why she leaves, because that's like going to be, I think, like maybe the last portion of the show. But you also have, and I'm going to like throw some things out, but like you also have people who are like, well, like I'm a fat woman of color and I can't find love. And they're like, well, we can fix that for you. It's not because society is racist or fat phobic.
Mhm.
It's because you're not doing things you need to do. I'm a lesbian and, I'm dealing with homophobia and I'm not sure if I want to come out and it's scary. Oh, well, we can fix that for you. It's not really that you are married to a man and have children and a family to support and you're scared of your family's reaction. It's just that you need to do the fucking mirror exercise. So it's like a lot of these people are coming from a place of feeling like either they cannot find a partner in the circumstances they are in, or they found their partner and due to reasons that are outside of their control, they lost that partner. And the thing is like nobody owes you a reason, right? Like sometimes relationships just don't work out. Like you're sitting there thinking we're the most compatible couple that ever existed and everything is wonderful. And the other person's going, oh, I'm not having a good time. And that just happens. I'm not even going to post that, Zach, because you're super wrong. We don't have time to get into that. That's all literally a whole different series. And I'll recommend a podcast called Maintenance Phase for anybody who wants to learn more about referring to fat people as fat and why that's good and preferred.
Yeah, Arcelia is a tough one. I think she and Marley really broke my heart because word. And Marley is Keely's sister. Keely brings her into this, and she gets matched up with a guy who just messaged her and said he liked her, and she didn't even know who he was. And then Jeff and Shalia pronounce in public at a public meeting that is her twin flame.
And he was part of the group already. So this is the thing, we talk about that guarantee. And what does a guarantee do in a situation where you cannot guarantee shit, right? Like it's a whole fucking thing, right? Like, and I think a lot of the crazier shit comes from the fact that they were dumb enough to make a guarantee on something that you can't guarantee.
Mm-hmm.
So this guy's he's like over 10 years her senior. He has untreated mental illness. He has a criminal record for drug dealing, I think. Is that what it was?
That's what they said, yep.
So, that's what you really want is untreated mental illness and illicit drugs that are definitely not being, administered or monitored by a doctor that knows or a psychiatrist that knows about your mental illnesses.
Yeah, and she's only 19 at this time too. So let's just bear that in mind. She's freshly just barely out of high school. And they're, telling her she has to move to Utah from Massachusetts to go be with this guy.
Never moved to Utah from Massachusetts. Isn't that going to be fun?
How about never move to Utah? I just
yeah.
I get it's gorgeous. Go visit. Go away afterwards.
I don't know. Just not from anywhere else. Yeah, you're right. Just don't.
Right.
Don't do it.
Go and look at Moab. That's gorgeous. Then
you go to Salt Flats and then go home.
Yeah. Zach is actually agreeing.
Yeah, no one's going to make you move to Utah.
Yeah, so
people in Utah would probably rather you didn't. Honestly, they're not the most accepting
people. Yeah. Oh man, I just trying to think. Like I said, those two really hurt me. I felt bad for Steph's family because she kind of cut them out and they kind of follow the family about how they're trying to get her out. That was a bummer.
Pause for a second, and this kind of like ties back into the whole news thing that we talked about earlier. The thing that really fucked me up about Marley's situation is she's the only one being required to do the mirror exercise in that relationship, as it's going horribly wrong.
Mm-hmm.
He's having psychotic episodes. He needs mental health treatment, and if he won't get it, she needs to get the fuck out of there. But that is not what she's being told. She is being told, you need to do the mirror exercise. You need to be better, and he'll be better too. It's your energy that's fucking things up. They 100% put all of the responsibility on her because, the person having a psychotic episode doesn't know they need help. They're not reaching out. And that is not, I'm not saying that to be cruel. That's not a judgment. That is just a fact. That is what a psychotic episode is. You are not connected to reality. You're not like, how can I be better to my girlfriend? You are having a psychotic episode, like, for lack of a better term. I don't want to define what that means because I'll probably not get it quite right. But you can't be responsible for somebody who is having a psychotic break. And I don't think that your average person, this is not like a class you get in school, right? Your average person cannot handle that. A 19-year-old with no experience outside of high school, no serious relationships, never lived with a partner before, definitely cannot handle that and be responsible for that, take it in stride. And especially not with this pressure to just, well, it's your fault, actually. Like, you're bringing such negative energy in. He's being an asshole. It's like he's not being an asshole. He's mentally ill and he needs help.
Yeah, and you need to get out. But again, you're right. They put it all on her. It's in kind of, I don't know, it kind of is implied that there's some physical abuse there.
Yeah, we don't get all of that.
Which, hey, maybe she doesn't want that out there, and that's her right.
No, and I just want to say, because I think we do this a lot on the show. We talk about what isn't said, and I want to say, on the record, I firmly believe 100% of the time, absolutely no one is required to cut themselves open and display their trauma for people to pick apart. Because this is what we do on the show. We pick apart what happens in these documentaries. So if she doesn't want that, more fucking power to her. She has the right to decide. And that right was obfuscated from her. And I know I said that wrong, whatever. And just fucked with at an age where she didn't, there's no 19-year-old in the world, especially one who loves their big sister and is involved in this high control environment, that is yeah, I can perfectly advocate for myself and handle this extremely weird, fucked up situation by myself.
Yeah, the other one is Brianna, but that's in the Amazon documentary. She just goes whole hog in it, and that's a mess. There's a lot of actors in this, and I don't mean actors as in that they're acting. I mean, there's a lot of people involved in this. So
I want to save. And we talked about this in the trigger warning. So if this isn't a spoiler, I want to save the conversation about the coerced gender transitions for closer to the end, because I feel like we're just gonna have a million things to say, and it's actually going to be a hard thing to talk about. And if you watch the Amazon documentary, you see the parents of these people doing their goddamn best, and it's not easy. So I'm going to save that for the end. So what I want to maybe do is knowing that that's coming, kind of talking about this progression from we can help you and you can work for us to I'm right about everything, you're wrong about everything. Jeff is being abusive in these classes, and then eventually he says he's Jesus, and there's people living in the house doing work for them in exchange for coaching sessions, but not in exchange, they're actually paying for the coaching. So I don't even really know where to start with that, because it's kind of you have to kind of take both the documentaries and put them together to get this story. I wish that I had paid attention when we were picking which one to do, because the Vanity Fair article that I read is the basis for the Amazon one.
Hmm.
And it did have, so the Netflix one really focused more on the situation with Keely, who worked for them at a pretty high level, and her sister and all of that, and the trans issue. Whereas this one covered a lot of other stuff. There just comes a point, I think, where they are so high on their own supply and thrilled to just be conspicuous consumers and very prosperity gospel kind of thing, but they're convincing their followers they can have it too. And they kind of can, because they're actually not taking money from the people who are coaching. It's just that the coaches then sell all this other shit that they make all the money off of that. And so it's like this weird, like I get the whole $30 that I charge you for the coaching session, but they get the whole $3,000 that they charge you for a bunch of pre-recorded classes where they're just being assholes to some other member of the cult.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, the conspicuous consumption is a weird one coming from this like new age. What's not weird? Let me rephrase. So new age like beliefs or whatever would be like, you need to not be connected to these earthly things and being, like in touch with the universe and the earth and just be happy with who you are. And Christianity says like, the whole camel through an eye of a needle thing. And, it's not about money, it's about service. And both of them fall victim to this thing where it's like, yeah, but like, I want to spend $5,000 on undyed cotton outfits, and I want to spend, $20,000 to go to Sedona and have a white guy lead me through a sweat lodge ceremony that has nothing to do with the indigenous tradition that he stole it from. Mm-hmm. And I need 2 big fucking crystals on my rings or whatever it is, right? Like okay. I'm not claiming to be anybody's spiritual guide, so I'm allowed to have big crystals on my rings. But and then like I say, like Jeff starts doing this, well, I look like Jesus, so maybe I'm Jesus. Buy me more sports cars. Here are my sunglasses that I only wear when I'm in the Corvette. But like I say, it's not weird because you see it all the time, but based on what I would say New Age is more of a culture than a belief system because it encompasses all belief systems.
It's a lot of different things, yeah.
Yeah, but that culture and the Christian belief system, like that should not be something you can do in front of people openly and have them be like, yeah, you're a spiritual giant, I'm following you. Like it just shouldn't be. And yet here we are.
But people fall for that shit all the time.
But they're so blatantly open about it, right? Like she's on I don't know. I was gonna do this is my Louis Vuitton bag. It's not supply, but like she's on social media, like, look at my Louis Vuitton bag. And it's like, what? I'm paying you this money to like better myself and find true love and like all of these high ideals. And I'm supposed to give a shit that you got another fucking $5,000 purse. I don't give a shit. But that's easy for me to say because I learned about them when I wasn't in a position where I was like, oh, I'm so desperate to fix a relationship, or, some of these people, I have everything I want in life, and yet I can't find a fulfilling relationship, which I think, there comes a point in some people's lives that becomes very important.
Yeah, it's they get into this prosperity gospel, but that's what's interesting about it is like Shalia is supposed to be the spiritual person, and Jeff has always been kind of the money guy, like very obsessed with money. But very clearly, Shalia likes these things too. Like she likes all the fancy shit.
Do you want to get into your opinions on Shalia now? Because I think maybe it's a good time to do that. Yeah,
I think that's about time. So when you watch the documentaries, it's kind of style that Jeff is the mouthpiece and he's the one doing the lion's share of the talking. She just kind of goes and chimes in and says things. At least that's how it's edited in the documentaries.
Right.
like I said, when you see when they're early on, they very much look like two people who have a shit ton of chemistry and probably great sex and all that stuff. Great. That's early on.
We'll get there.
Yeah. But I think they saw each other as opportunities to raise each other up, to get more money, to do things like that. But with Shalia, I think it's one of those things where I wonder how much she's involved in the fuckery, but she definitely is.
100%. I live in a place that has a lot of crystal shops. Okay.
Mhm.
I live in a place that has like a retreat center where you can go meditate in the vortex and
Mhm.
you know, cacao ceremonies and like a lady that sells you things that can cure whatever you can think of with mushrooms. Not psychedelic ones because that's illegal, but she definitely does them. She's open about it. So I'm just gonna say, I don't think my experience. I've had bad experiences with New Age people. Let's start there. I've had really bad experiences with them. I just lost an earring. Sorry. I've had really bad experiences with New Age grifters living in a place that has just a huge New Age community. Like any community, there's really cool people and there's
Shitty people.
yeah. So like that's my preface. Like I have a bit of a chip on my shoulder for the damage these people can do because they've done this damage to people I care about. That said, you can 100% fucking believe it. You can 100% be like, this is true and real and still be a grifter and still be an asshole. Some of the hardest core New Age hippies I know are the most selfish people. Some of the hardest core New Age spiritual guides I know will fuck you over because they still rely on you to pay them $300 a session for their spiritual coaching so that they can pay their fucking rent. Like, I think that Shalia is both things. I think she 100% believes the shit, at least she did going in. And I also think that she saw it as a way to make money. And I think that she doesn't give a shit if Jeff believes it or not, which is something else I've seen. To me, if I'm in a relationship with somebody and I have like, I believe that you're my soulmate, and that person's like, oh, I don't think I believe in soulmates, then we're not soulmates, right? It has, or whatever. But I think she doesn't care, and that's something I see a lot too. And I think she tells him what to say. Because if she's the spiritual whatever, and he's the business, he's also the one doing most of the talking.
Yeah.
She's telling him what to say. She's feeding him these high ideals. And I feel like with the ego on him, hearing those things from somebody that he's attracted to, oh man, that probably just fucking pumped his head up like 10 times the size, right? I think that's what you see when you think you're seeing chemistry, is that she's like, I found this person I'm obsessed with. That means that it is fated. And he's like, I found somebody who found me the grift that I need, and also literally worships me.
Yeah, he very much gets off on the worshiping people. Like, yeah, just.
I think also my read on this, just my opinion, I think he's extremely abusive to her.
Oh, I would imagine so. Well. Well, there's like, I don't know if you see this because you're in sort of an area that has a lot of the new agey group people. But like my wife, Joel, talks a lot about she worries about like certain new agey people and sort of this alt-right pipeline that happens where they go from being this new agey, sort of hippie-esque kind of thing, and then becoming just super capitalistic, which is what Jeff and Shalia are doing. But then getting down even farther into the rabbit hole and turning into like basically like shitty libertarians.
I live in addition to living in a place with a lot of New Agers, it's a really small town. And so one of the people who I'm obliquely referencing, I could really not get away with saying I didn't like this person, saying that I thought they were a grifter, saying that I thought they were harmful, because it's a small town. I'm going to get that person's QAnon now. So maybe you should let me talk shit because I could have told you it's not good just because it's coming from a genuine place.
Yeah.
You know what? Now the thing that's coming from a genuine place is QAnon beliefs.
Yeah, and that's genuinely bullshit. So
And really harmful.
yeah, you're not wrong,
There's
Zach.
racist, it's part of it too. It's not just that, like the capitalism, it's racism. So a lot of new age stuff is filled with toxic positivity, right? So instead of like, okay, like I come to you, Doug, and I say, like, you're not gonna fucking believe this. Like, I just went and bought a car. I did, by the way. And I had the worst experience because the salesman was so misogynistic, which didn't really happen this time, it's happened in the past. And I say, you know, this happened, this happened, this happened, and I'm just so fucking angry. Why should it be hard for me to buy a car if I can afford the car and the car is there? Why do I have to deal with sexism? And Doug, you would say, I don't know, man, like you're really bringing the vibe down here, and I really can't handle all the negativity you're bringing in. And maybe what you need to do is think about what you're putting out in the universe is that's bringing that kind of negativity into you. It's not misogyny. It's not the patriarchy. It's you. And so what do you think happens when a person of color says they experience racism, or they say that they've been treated poorly at work, or they can't, you know, have the same opportunities or whatever? It's the same fucking thing. And so racism is kind of baked in to the mainstream new age stuff. And if you're not careful, it becomes way more malignant than that. And not that that's positive. It's not. It's bullshit. And I hate it, but it can be much more malignant than just saying that the racism you experience is your own fault. It can get a lot worse than that. And we're seeing that it often does. And so I think that's part of the new age to alt-right pipeline as well, because on one side, you got all the people who like are maybe new to the new age culture, or they're like not as into it, or they're like on a different fringe of it that doesn't have so much toxic positivity. And you say that stuff and they're like, you sound like a racist right now. Like, you leave. And on the other extreme, you have the actual fucking racists. And they're going to welcome you with open arms because they don't care about anything other than the fact that you're racist.
Yeah.
There are not standards. So, yeah.
Yeah. There's actually one lady even said, like, well, we have to get to another point before we get to that point. That ties into more racism. Sorry. There's a lot of points. Sorry. But so they have all these people, and very few of them are finding their quote unquote twin flames, or we have people who are pursuing their twin flames and going to jail because that twin flame had a restraining order against them. It's bad. It's bad. They just keep telling these people to pursue these twin flames, and it keeps turning into just this really awfulness. So was basically these people are starting to get a little restless. Like, you promised me I would find my twin flame, and then I would have this harmonious union. I am paying you thousands of dollars. The courses, just to start, are $222 a month. Just that. And then if you want the extra courses, that's another $3,000. Like,
there was one like $8,888 because they're all
they all did do that because they think it's cute. And one person told him that told Jeff that she couldn't afford it. And he said, just put it on your credit card. Like, if you just do that, whatever, whatever.
Don't escape this fucking cult. We're people with bad credit, man. I swear to God.
Yeah. So anyway, it sounds reasonable. Anyway, so all this unrest leads Jeff and Shalia to realize, oh, we need to do something. So they decide, we are going to channel these through God and crystals, I guess, to get these people their twin flames.
And look at someone and know, which is
and
creepily the Chad Daybell shit, by the way.
Yeah, so then they declare that the twin flame can only be a twin flame if it is also in the twin flames universe. If they are a person within there, then that. Ta-da!
Amazing, right? Because, like, remember, how I describe what the meaning of this term is in these circles. And also, it's like it's exceedingly rare because everybody can't be one half of a soul that's evolved more than everybody else, because then
Then it would happen to everybody.
yeah, it wouldn't be more evolved. It would be the same amount. Not only is everybody who stumbles their way into Jeff and Shalia's orbit one half of a super evolved soul, but their other half is also stumbled into this environment. It's like the fucking like it just drives me nuts how like they go against their own, like, Doug and I write fiction. You set the rules up and you have to follow them or people get mad.
Rightfully so.
And everyone was like, well, shit, like I spent $40,000 and I don't talk to my mom anymore. I guess fuck it. I'll just go with it for now, because all of the people that are in these harmonious unions are so happy because I only see them on video and I have no idea that they want to kill the person that they're living with.
Yeah. There is one exception, though, that I actually think works is Annie and God, what's that lady's name? Her partner.
Name, because
Katrina.
Katrina, right? Because they repeat Anne's name so much in a way that makes me want to literally just like dive through the TV and strangle Jeff. So
Yes. But what's interesting about a small background on them, because their story is pretty interesting, is that when they were younger, they very much had feelings for each other, but they didn't think that they should be together because heteronormative society. Hooray! Yeah. So you were going to say, Renee?
No, I was just like, preach.
Oh, yeah, yep. So anyway, they end up like Katrina gets married and has one kid. And then Annie has two children. I'm not sure, they didn't specify whether she was married at one point. Apparently she has two different fathers to her kids.
I think
Whatever.
they were both married. I think.
Maybe I'm wrong there, but
maybe not.
But Annie stumbles into Twin Flames universe and realizes that Katrina is her twin flame. So Annie confesses her love to Katrina, and Katrina's pregnant with her second child. What timing that was. Wow.
Here's the thing too. I like that their story has a happy ending, and I'm glad that they're together. What we don't get in their story is the consequences of that moment. We get the consequences of them being involved in the cult, and I get it. Like, if they covered every single thing, the show would be like 1,000,000 hours long. But doing it the way that they did was incredibly risky and likely had a pretty negative effect on their children. And that happened because of the influence of the Twin Flames universe.
Mm-hmm.
A normal situation like that would be like, I realize I've always been in love with you and you share those feelings. Let's make a plan. Mm-hmm. Let's figure out how to do this. Let's be healthy about it. Instead, it was like, fuck it, leave your husbands. Like, you don't have jobs, you have money. Who gives a shit? Like, just uproot your entire life right this second. And like, you'll figure out how to pay for food for your children somehow. Like, a house will appear. Like, it's just
Yeah.
It's not like they were in abusive marriages and they were like, we're gonna escape together. They were gay and shouldn't have been in heterosexual marriages, but the world sucks and that happens.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a lot of complicated feelings about that too, but we don't know.
No, we don't. You're right. They kind of glossed over that bit because you can imagine that had to be pretty tumultuous for both of them, and like you said, and their kids. But they were in pretty early, apparently.
Medical insurance. So you're pregnant and losing your spouse's medical insurance?
Well, that can be negotiated in divorce. Ask me how I know.
But again, that takes planning. And again, we don't know. But like, I just got this sense, the way that they described it was like, we're doing this as fast as we can. And, fast divorces don't get into all of that. Like,
that's fair. Yeah.
I don't know that that's the case. Like, maybe they did take their time. I don't know. Maybe their spouses were like, oh, like, I kind of get it. Like I had a sense that this was the case or whatever. Like the problem is that we don't know.
Mhm.
And so it's weird because as much as you want to believe that love is all you need to have a decent relationship with your children's other parent. You need money to feed your children. You need a social support network that isn't a cult. You need a lot of things.
Yeah. But yeah, just so spoiler alert, them they do end up together and at the end of Doc, so they're still together.
And I'm happy about that. I'm not
Yeah.
criticizing him when I say that, by the way.
No, I'm happy about that too, because it's if you are gay and you are living this life where you weren't expressing yourself the way you needed to, then I'm happy that they're there. But they're also like they were in pretty early, so they were another sort of they're like the LGBTQ poster child for that group.
Just imagine hearing that story because it's so cinematic.
Yeah, like if you wrote that, they would be like, "Get the fuck out of here!" That's yeah, come on, really? You're gonna do that?
We're on it. We're doing it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But interestingly, this is I think where we got to start talking about because talking about the transphobia part a bit.
The documentaries approach this in slightly different ways, and so I think maybe I'll tell you how I think it happened, and you can say if you agree.
Yeah, let's do it. You go first.
Okay. So as you mentioned, most of the people here are women. And there's a guarantee that you're going to find your twin flame, but then also, like, I cannot coerce a random person on the street to marry you, so we're just going to make everybody be together. And they realize that not only are the majority of the women there, or majority of members women, but they're straight women. They've already been fucking with this, again, problematic thing in New Age circles about the divine masculine and the divine feminine. And I just disclaimer, I understand that there are ways to interpret that are not gender essentialist or transphobic. That's not what's happening here. And that's not what's happening in a lot of places. It's problematic as fuck. Okay. All right. Problematic means it can cause problems. Okay. So they just, well, that's because, and I feel like this is so fucked up even in like before they started pushing it further, right? Like between Anne and Katrina, it's like, well, one of you is the divine feminine and one of you is the divine masculine. And it's like, no, we're both women and we're fine with that. And we like that. And we're lesbians. We are women who like women. That's the whole point.
Yep.
But that doesn't work if you want everybody paired up with somebody in the group, and most of the people in the group are women. And that doesn't work. I think the oh god, I can't think of the word right now because I got distracted by the comment from Zach I'm going to share in a minute. But the whole thing of like the second they had the, I say second because this is the order I watched them in. Hold on. Yeah. Each documentary had a gender historian. The one in the Amazon documentary, I think, put her finger on it very like chef's kiss. All that was really important once they started fucking with this was to get it back to a heteronormative, heterosexual relationship, at least from the outside looking in. Because you're not this super accepting, we love gay people organization that is also talking about how every relationship has to have a divine feminine and a divine masculine. Those things are mutually exclusive.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the non-problematic way to view those concepts is not that everybody is one or the other. I don't know. It was upsetting, but I'll say, like, what happened with Katrina and Anne, look at these two happy people. They're both women. Oh, but are they? And they want them to be the poster children that show everybody this is okay, right? And he calls her Anne the man every time he speaks to her. And he says her name way more often than anybody would.
Mm-hmm.
Like literally, he's trying his damnedest to coerce her into deciding to transition. He even picked her name for her. Luckily, they don't fuck with it. They're like, we're done. And oh gosh, I forgot her name. We just were talking about her, the woman who came in because her twin flame didn't like the fact that she was trans. Arcelita?
Arciela.
Arciela, sorry. And she says, like, what the fuck is this? Right? Like, this is not, I thought that they were accepting of trans people. This is not that. And she gets out. But unfortunately, there's a lot of people who fully bought in, who have cut off their families, who their whole livelihood is wrapped up in this. And they're basically put into like weird conversion camps where they are not really let go until they're like, fine, I'm a man. And start doing that. Start, cut the hair, change the name, change the pronouns, and start living as a man with a female partner that they didn't choose. It's baffling. And I do like that both of the documentaries made it clear, like, this is not pro-trans. Like, that's not what trans people want. That's not what people who support trans people want. Like, literally the whole point is that you know what gender you are and no one should get in your way. Not someone else should be able to fucking tell. That's literally the opposite of what we want, That's not trans rights. It's like, I don't know, it's so awkward. Especially you hear the parents talking about their kids who transitioned and they're like, I know that my child wants me to call them by this name and use these pronouns. So, I'm going to do that. But I also feel really strongly that they didn't do that because they're actually trans, but they did that because they were forced to. And like, how do you make that match up? How do you handle that as a parent? I hope I never find out. Like, it's
a lot.
It's a lot. I don't know. I talked for a long time, Doug. You
No, that's okay. When you said it was Ann the man, and fucking Jeff was like, Dan, just sounds right. I don't know if and Ann was like, I don't think I feel that. And he goes, sure you do. Like, he just kept pushing this Dan name, and to their credit, they're like, fuck this. So
he's so like, God, he's so bad at being a cult leader. Like, this is what really bums me out about the whole thing. Is like,
it makes me feel like I would be a good cult leader, except that I can't be that dishonest. But
yeah, I'd be better at it than this guy. Like, if let's pretend that I want Jeff to win, which I don't. I want him to die in a fire. And I mean that literally, by the way. That's not metaphorically. If I'm like, what about the name Dan? And she was like, oh, I don't know. That doesn't sound right. It's like, well, what's a male name that you like? But he's just like, no, because it's important to me to be in full control. It's important to me to be able to tell you and you just do it. Which is just like, come the fuck on, man. And they left and I think they knew like their choices, or they said as much as well, that their choices were to do what he said or leave. We saw people get kicked out over refusing to change their gender.
Yeah, there is that. There's many people that they tell to do this too. It's not just like a handful of people. There's lots of people like.
Well, there was 20 pairings, and the vast majority of people are women. So you have to imagine you're looking at like somewhere between 6 and 8 people, right? That were told to do this. If the majority of members are women.
And there's some other people that they get told this and they're just like, no. Like, I'm straight, and they were like, yeah, but it doesn't matter. Your other partner is a divine masculine. It doesn't matter. And those people kind of walked out, like they got out. And the way that is interesting to me is like, this is the dumbness of them. All right. As a person who works in IT, I'm going to put my IT hat on for a minute. To kick people out of the group and you just block them from the face group, but you do nothing to forbid them access to other things. You don't change your passwords. Like, I just like, what the fuck are like, That is a number one. If someone quits or is fired, you immediately revoke their access to everything. Like immediately.
Keely had a bunch of access to shit, and then also the girl who went to jail had access to a bunch
L.
of shit,
Her name
right?
is L.
L,
What-
yeah. It's like, dude, it's so funny though. Like my super toxic job I left, like I resigned in protest. They cut me out of my own email before I could tell like people I was working with, but they left me in their Dropbox with like everything, like
That's just the dumbest shit. But that's the kind of thing that like I just when they were talking about, oh, I still had access to some of your stuff, and I was like, what? Like that is like the most illogical thing to me. So it's just like,
just keep it in your docs in your Facebook group, and then when you ban somebody, like I mean, it's literally that simple.
like you do that and you can ban them from the Facebook. That doesn't revoke their access to anything else except the group. Like what do you?
And it doesn't keep the people in the Facebook group from going and being like, dude, what's going on?
Mhm.
I mean, a lot of them didn't, and that's why a lot of people are still part of this. But like, some of them did, and they left because they were like, "What the fuck?" You know?
Yeah. Sorry, that IT thing just that bugged the fuck out of me. I just was like,
I just felt
Some-
like it was so good for me because I'm familiar with the feeling of being like, "Wait, what? I can see what? They let me do what? Oh, okay,
yeah. Okay, I'm gonna go look at that.
right? Obviously,
Obviously, you got the access. Why not? I would be doing the same thing. That's why when you get people out, you fucking kick them out and you shut the door.
it's like,
Like,
my email is shit I already knew about. This is something."
Yeah. I don't want to dismiss the trans stuff, but I think if we could spend hours on that, like literally just how bad that
So
is.
easy to just be like, "Nope."
Yep.
And I
So,
think like there's a chance that maybe one or two of those people are legitimately trans, and
mhm.
this
And
was
maybe
a
this,
outcome.
yeah,
But
I think most know.
yeah, it just seems again, what are the odds statistically?
Yeah, there's but tying into this with the trans stuff is we get into kind of the murkiest character in this whole thing to me
Ooh.
is the person who is the map director, the military person. I want to get your I want to get your I want to get your input on this as your former military.
I was floored. It's very upsetting because here's what I really worry. So we don't know how much of what she said was true. Okay, like we don't
Yeah.
know. But if it's true that she is bringing this shit into the military, it's not fucking okay. And here we go. First of all, just listen to what it's called: mind alignment process. That's cult shit. That's not therapy. That's not therapy.
No.
I haven't finished. Like I'm in school to become a therapist. I haven't finished 100%. I bet everything I own. No therapist is going to be like, yeah, that sounds like a modality. And then also, like she planted fucking memories.
Sexual trauma.
Yes, child sexual abuse, because of course, like so many of these. And she fucking recruited people out of support groups and made it her goal to bring it to the military, to be used in the military. And like,
And
what
why did he do that?
already using it in the military. She already was, because it's her fucking job, right? A guy comes into her office with PTSD. She is going to do this thing. She's going to do it. It's not ethical. It's not fucking healthy.
Nope.
It's not okay. This woman, all I can hope and pray is they saw that fucking documentary and they fucking kicked her out. And here's an interesting thing. If you retire from the military and they find that you are doing things that are against the UCMJ, you are doing things that reflect poorly on the military, whatever, they can take your retirement away. Which
Good.
I actually think is weird and not cool. But in this case, fucking do it.
In this case, it's good.
Get her the fuck away from any, like, take whatever qualifications she has away from her, take her rank away from her, get her the fuck away from people who are dealing with trauma, who are dealing with depression. I say, like, how many of the people did she work with who actually had trauma? We don't know because she's making shit up. And then fucking neurolinguistic programming gets brought up because of course it does. Anyway, yeah, no, my feelings about it, like, I should stop there. I was so enraged. I fucking
bet.
God.
And when I was watching this,
Weird out there treatment modalities for PTSD. I have done some weird out there treatment modalities for PTSD. That shit's fucking crazy.
yeah, and it was when I was watching this, I thought, oh, I cannot wait to hear what Renee has to say about this, because I was like, this is, and what was funny, well, not funny, but what was interesting is, like, he was talking about this MAP program. Jeff was talking about it, and he, like you said, they're just so blatant. He's like, we could sell this to the military and then I'll be a billionaire. I will be a billionaire. I like
Not we will. I mean, that's the other thing. When I talk about, like, I've been involved in some weird treatment modalities, like, everybody involved in those modalities is like, we can fucking help people.
We can do X or whatever. Yeah.
We could change the way that people live their lives. We can, whatever. I don't want to get into it because it's weird. I'm not gonna, like, pitch anything to anybody, but, like, no, it's not about fucking making money. Like, these organizations that are doing out there stuff, or what you might consider out there if you've never had treatment resistant mental illness, they're like, we want to help. Not we want to make $1 billion. Like, you.
Well, that's been his whole. That was his whole modus operandi, was trying to make more money. I mean, just look at how he does these videos where he's like, this is my house, and it's this big ass house in the middle of Michigan, and here's my pool, and here's my Porsche, and, like,
comes to, like, stay there for a few days. He's like telling her about the specs of their pool heater. It's like, no one cares.
No. It is. It's very clear from the doc, and especially the Amazon doc, especially, where it's very clear he just doesn't give much of a shit other than just have more money.
And the other thing too about that fucking Chrissy bitch is that whether she's telling the truth or not, she's using her position in the military. I found my earring in the military to appeal to authority and make people believe. Like, I can trust her because she works with people with PTSD in the military. She's got this high rank. She says she knows these people.
What's the high rank?
Well, I had, like, I always get the name wrong, so I'm not going to say it because I'll probably say the wrong one. I fucking hung out with and had dinner with the son of one of the guys that was on Trump's fucking cabinet, like, by accident, because the military is a weird place.
Yeah.
And I was just like, because they have the same name. So I was like, wait. I started doing the math and I was like, oh no.
I've been like, can I leave?
Yeah, but like that should happen. So, like, am I, like, I could give you, if you were a MAGA, whatever, I could be like, oh, well, oh, I was having dinner with General so-and-so's son who.
I know exactly who you're talking about, and I'm not even in the military. So
I always get the name wrong. I always say the name of the guy who's in the Army, not the guy who's in the Marines. So fucking whatever. Just.
It's all right.
I had dinner with his son and his wife, and we were talking about blah blah blah. And I could say fucking anything because the basis of it is true, which I really did have dinner with them, and it was in, kind of a. Well, you don't have. He was there. The general was there also. I didn't have dinner with him, thank God. I don't know if I'd be in jail. Like, I wouldn't be here. This was years ago. Like, Colt Bar would have never happened. Anyway, yeah, I could appeal to that authority, and I could pretend like, because I was in this position to be at a kind of highfalutin military thing, and that's who I happen to be seated with, I could make some people believe that I really knew those people well, and had some kind of insight I didn't have, or had some kind of power I didn't have, because part of the lie is true. And most people don't understand how small the military really is.
Yeah. Well, people think the military is like a massive amount of people. Is it like, what is it, like 1% of the population have served? Like, it's a very small percentage of the population have served in the military.
1% of the population has served in the military, I think. So it's less than 1% that's currently in. I might be wrong on that. If you Google it and I'm wrong,
Don't yell at us. We don't know exactly. So yeah.
But like, and I was in the Marines, which is even tinier, right? Like,
yeah,
that's the other thing that pissed me off, because people like to do that, right? Like they like to use your lack of knowledge to make you think you know things that aren't really possible.
yeah. So part of this map thing, it's not just map, is like they're growing these different facets of it. So they have map. The one that fucks me up is Divine Dish.
The fucking meal plan, which actually, so this is weird, right? Because like most of these cults want to starve people, and they were like stuffing them
No,
like
eat all these carbs. Here's the red meat. Let's.
And I did think it was interesting because it was also like you had to eat all of it.
Mm.
So it wasn't like, well, I had half because it's really rich, or because I'm like a tiny person or whatever. Just like get into like this whole thing of like, well, you're gonna love this person even more when they're bigger, because I personally loved Shalia more when she was bigger because I like big women. It's like, no, like what?
Yeah, not everybody's going to like that, for one, and two, that is really fucked up.
But it's just like, what? Like you again, like if you're in a healthy relationship and your partner's body changes, like that probably isn't gonna negatively impact your relationship, but like we're not making fucking foie gras here. We don't need to force feed people. And I thought it was interesting though, in terms like we usually see restriction.
Yeah.
We're seeing like basically force, like psychological force feeding. And that's what Keely said, like I felt like I wasn't in control of my body anymore. And it's interesting to see how both sides of that same spectrum result in the same negative thing, like negative consequence.
Yeah, negative self-worth, negative like Keely had said that several people had to go to like the hospital from like all the issues they were having from the diet. So
I mean, yeah, like you don't even understand how fast you can do something like cause fatty liver, which can fucking kill you. Like most people in like we live in a developed country, like we're not going to be, our nutrition is not going to kill us fast, most of us.
Mine almost did.
Yeah, well, I said most of us, like this is a thing, right, where like you reached a demographic where that is at increased risk. It wouldn't have had the same effect, and didn't have the same effect 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, right? Like it's really hard to take like a healthy 25-year-old and feed them enough salt to fuck up their health.
Yeah, that would take a long time.
Actively funneling salt down their throat, which like with these people, it was high carb, high fat, red. It was like all shit that's bad for you in large amounts. And it was large amounts of it. So yeah, like it's very dangerous. And again, like,
and they were required to buy it.
Yeah, and like me sitting there eating, like I eat high carb, high fat, red meat way more than I should. I'm not dying, but that's because like I get halfway through a carne asada burrito and I'm like, oh, I'm full. I'll save the rest for later. I don't have anybody hanging over me being like, you better fucking finish it.
Yeah, that was my youth. I put food in front of you. You better eat all of it.
It's so, yeah. And we know that
was different.
But even with the epigenetic changes that happen in the human body when you are a kid and you are in a clean your plate household, because that really does have like an effect on you for the rest of your life. Just a little bit of information for you guys out there if you have kids. It fucks up your ability to know when you're full. Your brain doesn't know anymore because you were taught to ignore those cues. Like 9 times out of 10, if you're overweight when you're an adult, like that should happen either before you even existed genetically or when you were a kid, right?
Or a combo thereof.
But even with that, even with having an epigenetic change in your body and your brain that makes it so you could sit there and you could eat a California burrito full of fucking red meat and French fries and guacamole and sour cream and cheese and not know when you're full, even with that, it is actually really hard to eat yourself in the emergency room. These people were eating themselves into the emergency room. They were being coerced to do it.
Yeah.
And that is like, it is mind boggling because it is so hard to do if you are not like, if you're a diabetic person and you drink sugar water, sure, yeah, you're going to be in trouble. But like a normal human being cannot induce a diabetic coma if they don't have diabetes. A normal human being cannot induce fatty liver if they don't have some kind of shit going on with their liver. Like these are young people for the most part. Like part of me is like, show me the plate because this is crazy. Like this doesn't make like medical scientific sense. What were they feeding them? I believe that it happened. I'm not saying I don't believe it. I'm saying
I believe it too.
it is what it's impossible to believe it wasn't on purpose. That's what I'm trying to say. Like I feel like there was like some sadism here. Let's see if we can make them do it.
Yeah, I think that's like exactly what it was. Let's do this. We can make money off them, and let's see how to do it.
It is so yeah. Oh my god, I can't like this one makes me go cross-eyed because in a lot of ways it is not as bad as some of the cults we have covered. But like the things that they're doing are like they are just like hard to wrap your brain around.
Yep. Well, as with most cults, it's not good enough that they're making all this money. They want to cheat people out of money, especially the government. They decide to create the Church of Union. They make Keely do all this work. I find it funny is they make Keely do this work to figure out like how to save money on taxes, and Keely's not an accountant. Like
Yeah.
she just has to sort this out in the fly. Like, hey, go and figure this out. Oh, okay. Here's a tax code. Good luck. Like,
I also like that the quote from Jeff was, if she could figure out how to make it a religion, quote, that way I don't have to pay people. I can like have volunteers. That's not how it actually fucking works. Like some people at churches get paid. Like the laws about labor are a lot more strict than that.
yeah. And he was already doing that, by the way.
Right, exactly.
He was already making people work without paying them. So I don't know. I have a lot of issues with organized religion as it is. For a host of reasons, and one of the bigger ones is being tax exempt. But when you're not that, and then you go, I'm going to make a church, and then I'm going to stick all my for-profit companies underneath the nonprofit umbrella.
Which is illegal.
Yes, it is. And Keely told him that, and he was like, well, then you need to fix it.
You find a way to make it legal. So, well, that doesn't
that would require us to get some people to make some laws on our behalf, which is a whole different ballgame.
I can make your organization legal. You're gonna have to change a lot. Yeah, and because you don't have to be an accountant to look at it and be like, oh no.
Yeah, so there's that. So that's great. So now they're trying to actively cheat the government out of money, which they were doing that before.
Fine.
But
Like fuck the government too, but like the way they want to cheat the government out of money is to exploit people for free labor, among other things. But yeah.
among other things, we got a lot to get to, and we're already an hour and a half. So I'm trying to figure out what we need to cut through here. But I wanted to touch on that because that is something that is. This is actually what I think is going to take them down. That bit.
Yeah.
Like fucking with taxes, because if the IRS gets on them, they'll go down because I guarantee you they're fucking with taxes.
Oh man, I just wanted to pop back to the Marley story real quick.
Yes.
Okay, so this situation does eventually lead to Keely and Colby leaving and kind of realizing like they shouldn't be together, but like they're not, it's not like they didn't have a bad breakup. So they go to rescue Marley from this fucker. Like, I'm sorry. Like, I know, like, I want to be kind because it's also not his fault he's not getting treated because they're telling him he doesn't need to. But
yeah.
So I just, in my notes, it's like, I lost it. He had untreated schizoaffective disorder, which she described incorrectly, but still.
Yeah.
And then her first MAP session was to heal from trauma from domestic violence that this man put her through while being told that she needed to stay in that relationship. So again, they didn't say he hit her. They said domestic violence. Intimate partner violence can be a lot of things. I think he did. And again, it led like her sister and brother-in-law, who's like, I need out of this relationship, was like, well, first things first, we need to save your sister.
Yeah.
About it is.
And kudos to them for kind of being like, I gotta get out, but we gotta get her out too. Like,
yeah, well, and I get like one thing I did like about the Netflix documentary is they showed the cost of being complicit in a way that the other docs we've covered have not.
that's
We
very
really
true.
saw Keely had a lot of pain about what she did to other people, not just what she did to her sister. And she was really actively working on coming to terms with what she had done as a member of this group, not just what was done to her. And we don't see that a lot. And I think it's really hard because there's this like, where's the line between victim and offender when you're in a cult? And I believe it was the Netflix documentary where they talk about that. Like when you're in a cult, you're always both things. There's no way to not be both things. And that is a head fuck. That is a cognitive dissonance that most people really mentally can't take. We're not designed to live with that kind of cognitive dissonance. So, but the other thing is about the MAP that we didn't cover is somebody in the Facebook group reached out for help with their depression. They were told do mirror, do MAP, do mirror, do MAP. They fucking killed themselves because they needed help. They didn't need this fucking piece of shit organization.
Mm-hmm. And then their response to it was like this whole, well, like we're sad for her, but she didn't do all these things. It was like basically
I just happen to know for a fact that she didn't do her mirror exercise enough.
Yeah, that's a really hard bit of the document, and they didn't spend a lot of time on it, and I kind of understand why not, but like still.
Oh, I forgot that one of the things that Elle did was to fuck with their Twitter account for a while.
I think the funniest part was she put Jeff's face over like a Warren Jeffs picture with all of his, like there's a photo from one of the documentaries where all of Warren Jeffs' wives are standing there. They have a boat like a painting of Warren Jeffs, and she put Jeff's head there, and then Elle goes, that might have been offensive to Jeff's wives, and I'm sorry, but I had to do it.
I'm actually Cult Podcast is covering Warren Jeffs right now. I'm right in the middle of it. I don't mind. Anyway, yeah. So and then like he sues all of them because that's the other thing that cults do. Sues the former members for telling the truth.
Yep. Yeah, lots of litigation.
Because the thing is you don't have to win, right? Like this is what I think a lot of people don't understand. Like there's other organizations doing this. When I'm not inclined to mention because I don't want to get pulled in. I know someone being sued by one of these organizations. Like I don't have to win. I just have to make sure that you are broke these legal fees and that you are so worn down that you cannot afford financially, mentally, physically, socially to continue. And that if you open your mouth again, if you share this information again, I will sue you again. And again, even if it gets thrown out before it even goes to court, you still have to pay for a lawyer. Where's that money coming from, sweetheart?
Mm-hmm. Well, the one person's mom, Louise was her name, and her daughter was was Steph. She was and her sister was her twin sister, which is ironic. Yeah, yes. And so Louise said that she had spent $30,000 just to get a case dismissed that was brought in. That's the kind of game that they're playing because the Twin Flames folks have lots of money.
Yeah.
They have lots of money to do that. So to them to throw $30,000 away is no big deal. That's $10 to you and I. So like, yeah, that's their game isn't to actually to win. Their game is to exhaust your resources so you can't do it again.
Real quick, I just saw this quote and I unfortunately did not attribute it, but I think it was the head of security, Lene, maybe, who said,
Lene was one of them. Yeah.
I'm not sure if it's her who said this, but it's in like that group of notes. So I think maybe it was. And she said one of the reasons she left is because she said, I'm a black girl. I'm not getting a black husband to join this white cult with me.
Oh, that was Shanice.
Shanice, there you go.
Yes.
Because it was quite the sea of white.
That was just like the light bulb kind of moment for her. You're like, oh yeah.
Oh, and it is Shanice. No, never mind. Okay, sorry. I just like there's some bits in here that we can't get into, but also bi erasure, bisexuality can exist because you're either divine feminine or divine masculine.
Yep.
Which means that you have to be attracted to whatever the opposite of that is. And fuck you. You might think that you like dick and pussy. You're wrong.
Nope, you can only pick one.
I don't know very many people who've had a sexual experience and enjoyed it. And you could be like, I think you're wrong. I don't think you did. And they would be like,
yeah,
maybe I didn't enjoy it.
Maybe you're right. Maybe I just didn't think that was good. Yeah.
But the thing too is like Angie was a bisexual woman and she was sucked into this and she was coaching another bisexual woman and just repeated what she was being told. And you see her coping with that and dealing with the aftermath of that when she gets out and realizes what a load of bullshit it is. Mm-hmm. Because all of these people are encouraged to be coaches and work for one of these companies. So all of them are recruiting new members and spreading this shit around. And at the time that they're doing it, they believe it. Or at least partially believe it. And so, yeah, it sucks. Like, I don't want to imagine what that feels like, but I can't imagine it's good.
Well, there's a lot of Jeff and Shalia like to sow unrest too. Like that's kind of chaos that makes it better for them. Like the one lady, Sarah, made this comment, which I thought was a great comment, was, well, that's how they make their money. If you weren't upset, then you got nothing to work on. So you can't do the mirror exercise, because if you're content, why do you have to why do you have to pay them? Why do you have to do anything? Like they needed the chaos.
And if I'm a happy person who's like really comfortable with myself and happy with my life and whatever, I might realize that I don't need a romantic partner right this fucking second. I can wait. And maybe that person will come along and maybe they won't. And that's probably okay because I like me and my life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think interesting. I think the idea of that and being like sort of on your own and being okay with that is a lot more prevalent for folks who are younger than us.
Yeah. But also, I can't believe we forgot to hit this. Doug, we have like 15 minutes left. We have to talk about this. The fucking baby.
Oh yeah, I was like getting ready to talk about that. Yeah,
I just like saw it in my notes and I was like, oh my god, I forgot that. Go ahead.
Yeah, so they are trying to. What I thought was funny is they were doing IVF, which lots of couples need to do that. Lots of people need to do that because of. And then they proclaim it's not because of fertility issues, because we're trying to choose the right gender to match who they are. Which that isn't how genetics or IVF works.
You can.
Well, you can, but
have an abortion. Anyway, look, I don't want to get into that even, but here's the thing. So the story is that this baby will never need a twin flame because they're whole and divine and never have sex outside of God. Here's a fucking problem.
Jeff, I hope you're going to say. I think you and I are going to say the same thing, but go ahead.
I mean, Jeff is saying that he's Jesus, and depending on how you interpret the Trinity. I don't like that. I don't like that. Never have sex outside of God, and your dad is already, before you've even been conceived, on the fucking road to saying that he's God. I don't even know if Shalia thought about that when she was running her mouth about it. Who fucking knows? But I don't like it. It's horrible. But anyway, this kid is going to be the most ascended, the most perfect, the most everything. Then wouldn't it just fucking come out as the gender it was supposed to be?
He also made the point that it did need a twin flame because it would be able to the baby would be able to sexually satisfy itself, which I thought was fucking weird. But like,
I mean,
everybody can sexually satisfy themselves to some degree, right?
such a weird thing to say, and also a weird thing to think about your own baby.
Yes, very much so. Yeah.
And then they started doing the thing, right? It's like, Shalia's pregnancy is getting difficult. It's your fault for not being good enough.
It's your fault for making her stressed.
Shalia's dying. You're hurting Sheila.
Yeah, there's a lot of that nonsense.
Then then she has a miscarriage, or I don't know. They say the pregnancy is not viable, so I don't know exactly if it was a miscarriage or like ectopic pregnancy or something.
Well, Jeff tried to argue with her on that, which I thought was fucking hilarious. He's like, they said it was ectopic. He's like, no, they didn't. Like, that's where you see a bit more of the cracks, which they normally don't show too much in the documentary. But like, and she said, yeah, they did. Like, she actually weirdly stood up to him there, which.
Because it's, well, but also because it doesn't matter to the story they're telling. It doesn't matter to the narrative why the baby wasn't born. Because their narrative is that the baby, who they knew was going to be a female, knew was going to be named Grace, just decided not to fucking come to Earth. Just decided
it'll stay in an astral plane. The astral plane.
So who fucking, like, why does it matter how the pregnancy ended if that is the divine baby saying I'm not coming? It's very weird. I'm not gonna try and get into my theories on what the fuck that means, because that way lies madness. But then directly following that is like, okay, everybody, guess what? You're moving here to Michigan so that you can have ascended babies that can
golden children
with God, who's yet to be named. They lost a lot of people there too, because people were like, excuse the fuck out of me.
Well, we're kind of rapid fire here, but this quote here from Jeff just kind of like, there's a million quotes from him that just are fucking ridiculous. But this one is like, we were talking about they were looking at getting a 40-acre property and building like a meeting hall on it, not living quarters. You had to live in some sort of trailer on the property, but a meeting hall. And he said, it is the most perfect property for me ever. It's my divine birthright.
For me.
Not for Shalia and him. Not for the group.
Not for all the people I'm moving here.
Yeah.
Even fucking Joseph Smith had the smarts to say that all these fucking random promised lands he kept choosing after they got kicked out of the place was for everyone, not just for him.
Yeah. So you talked about the golden children concept, which is fucking great, because only people that are in the TFU mating with people in the TFU can have golden children. That's the only way it's possible.
Right, because they're going to be the combination of divine feminine and divine masculine. Here's the thing, though, again, going back to what twin flame is supposed to mean, you can't make one, like, the whole point, the thing that these people read that got them to Jeff and Shalia, right? Because you could Google this, you'll find this like everywhere, is that there's one soul and it lived through all these different lifetimes and it evolved spiritually in such a way that it had to become two souls. Like the spirit was too big, it had to become two souls. And they're basically saying, like, by joining the divine masculine and divine feminine, you're gonna have a baby and it is going to be two twin flames combined into one. And it's like, well, no, because that just makes it a regular baby who hasn't evolved. The soul hasn't evolved yet. Like, what? Again, in fiction, you have to follow your own rules. In cults, say whatever.
Make it up as you go along. No, Zach, it did not accept you. So sorry.
Team Goose. But then I like that at first it was like, well, if you can't have a baby, then like somebody else from the group can give you sperm. And then
But Jeff has to pick them. Only Jeff can pick.
first it was like just whoever you feel comfortable with. And then he was like, well, actually, like it just really fucking bothers me when I'm not in control of everything.
Yeah, and then you had to, in order to be eligible to have golden children, you had to meet Jeff's criteria, which was you needed to make $10,000 a month.
I mean, it's certainly easier to pay for a baby on $10,000 a month. The other thing is that he had them watch NXIVM videos.
Yeah, and then write an essay why he wasn't a cult leader, which
it didn't work because a lot of people who were given that assignment were like, oh no.
It's like, oh no, we're in a cult.
It's so fucking weird. Like, why do that? Why? You didn't have to invite that in. But then because Keely was one of the ones that had to do that, she was like, oh no, this is a cult. And he kept her in a chair for 24 hours on video call until he reprogrammed her, like brainwashed her back into, okay, it's not a cult. It is though. Super is.
Yeah.
And then you see like another thing that you can leave, but it does not go away immediately. And we saw that in the Sarah Lawrence one and a couple others.
Yeah.
Angie, the bisexual coach, when she left, her dad died like right after she left, and she was just like, oh God, it's because I left.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really sad but at least she got to be there when he passed. So, I mean, not that that's great, but I get that. You get that guilt because did I do something? Was it me?
They said that something horrible would happen if I left and then something
horrible happened. Yeah.
And this is the other thing too, like in the Amazon doc, he's talking to Acelia and her dad's a fucking transphobic dick. What does he say? By the way, your dad loves you. He just doesn't know how to love you. Oh, well, fucking thank you. Like, that is not the most
great.
Goddamn. Okay. Sure. That means nothing. That means he's still a dick.
Yeah. And the fact that Jeff had never met him, he doesn't know. Like, how do you know? You don't know shit. So.
Yeah. And I just want to get into, we just have a few more minutes. I want to get into some of the highlight reels of crazy things Jeff said to people.
Oh, this is good. Let's do it.
Yeah. So he tells people that if their twin flame won't talk to them, to go to their house, knock on the door. And if they won't come to the door and they're home, you break into their home, start taking their shit, moving into their house. Okay.
That sounds like a reasonable plan.
He says it like he's joking, but then you see these other videos and it's like, oh no, he fucking means that though. Like, what the fuck? Oh, that was the other thing. He would use words that were pretty common in New Age spirituality, but in ways that didn't quite mean what they mean outside of this group. I think it's really interesting because it didn't quite. It was very close. So if you decided to go Google it and find consensus, you'd still be in a spot where you're like, is that? I guess part of what he said is in line with these beliefs.
Right.
And he's supposed to be better than all of these other leaders. So I don't know. And then what? This poor woman who has her twin flame is in a committed relationship with a child and finds out that he's planned to have another child. And he says, you realize they're bored with each other. That's why they're having a baby. And he just turns that into, it's the fact that they want to have children together proves that they're not meant to be together. And it's like, huh?
What kind of fucked up logic is that? Now, that's not to say there aren't people who do we're having problems in our marriage. Let's have a kid to make it better, which never does. But
Yeah.
that doesn't sound like what this was. But
No, and then like, as you said, it's like, well, you just need to try harder. You just need to be more aggressive. You just need to not give up. And like, really, they're blatantly encouraging stalking and just like steamrolling boundaries. And then, Elle, like I said, she goes to jail and share her story. And I actually see, like, with the amount that she owns, I don't think she's lying. She says
Yeah.
basically she did not know that he was reporting all of this harassment when she's texting him, calling him, knocking on his
Mhm.
door, all of that. He's keeping a record. He gets a restraining order. Jeff is still encouraging her to keep in contact with him. She's doing it, and he's reporting all of that. These are all the times that she has violated the restraining order, and she's open and honest about all of this. She
Mhm.
says that on her birthday, she decides to go out dancing with her friends. She's at the same bar he is. He takes it as, you fucking stalked me. That's how you knew where I was.
Mhm.
And she goes to jail. And she's like, no, for real? Like this time? That's not what happened. Like all of the other shit, yeah, I did that. But this was just like the fucking worst coincidence.
Yeah.
And Jeff like bullies her into saying that she really did show up there on purpose and like making her feel guilty for it and take responsibility for it. But then in the same conversation is like, good job, you didn't give up. You did what you had to do. And it's just like, what? Like, was it wrong or right? What the fuck? Like, so yeah, I mean, it's just like,
Hey, there's
oh, he talks about his home planet too. What the fuck is that? That was weird.
I missed that one.
I think that was prior to Twin Flames universe when he was living with his buddy and my favorite
Oh,
detail of the documentary, he and Shalia were eating hot dogs 3 times a day. To the point
oh, that's right. The friend's like,
dogs.
yeah, the friend's like, I like hot dogs, not that much.
No, he said like now he can't eat them at all anymore because of that. And it's like, oh God. And my second favorite quote, or sorry, that was my favorite fact, my favorite quote, and I texted this one to you. When the journalist is there and they're giving her a tour of the house, and she says, things got even weirder when I went in the basement. Haven't you seen a horror movie? What the fuck did you think was gonna happen down there?
And I said, there's never not been a time when that statement isn't true.
Right? You're in a weird situation and there is a basement, it will be weirder in the basement. 100% of the time. Take it from me. I don't.
Yeah. It's interesting because the lady who did the Vanity Fair article, she showed up on my TikTok now. But she was talking about, somebody asked her, do you think they believe this stuff? And she said, I will tell you this. When I was there and I was interviewing them, it seemed like they did. And she said, if you take it from the perspective of you have this partner who just worships you, and then you have all these people who worship you or just telling you how great you are, kind of hard to not be that person,
Yeah, but
that you don't believe it.
I don't think that they believe that they're matchmaking people for real.
Oh, I don't think they
I
believe
don't
they're
think
bad.
they
I think they know that they are taking advantage of people and making money. I think they're very aware
yeah,
of
I
that.
think it's all like that is a response. Those are solutions to problems that have occurred because they can't keep people engaged any other way. Which
Mhm.
is funny because I think that they genuinely could. We've seen it in other cults, right? Like the bill of goods I have sold you is not working out the way I said it was. So it turns out here's another set of classes you have to take. Or it turns out that it's your fault. You're not faithful enough, or you didn't do this the right way, or like there's a lot of ways to keep it going.
Mhm.
And they just kind of went with like, oh shit, we guaranteed something we can't guarantee. We're just gonna force it. And okay, I would say that doesn't work, but fucking it did, and they still have
It's continuing to.
numbers. So because it's really not
Yeah.
about what they're selling people, right? It's about how they do it.
Yeah. So that is Twin Flames. There's a lot more that can be discussed, as there always is with all of these. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah. So that said,
I want a T-shirt that said "Things got really weird when I went in the basement."
Oh, that'd be a great one. Maybe we should have Cult Bar merch. I would love that. We'll talk about that off camera. So next time, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about this.
Hide the thing, sorry.
Love is One.
Is great because my friend read this news article and just like out of nowhere on my Facebook page is a link to an article that's like, do you know about this lady who's a mummy with glitter all over her? I do not, but I'm excited to click that link. What the fuck?
So yeah, this is a docuseries that just came out. So we're going to cover this in January. So yeah, that is going to be on January 3rd. So I had not ever heard of this, and you said you kind of vaguely heard of the person. So
like I read that article. That's it. That's all I know. But
yeah, yes, you are. Exactly.
You are, but that's okay because I ran out of time to eat before this. You know how I kept using burritos as an example? It's because I have a burrito out there waiting for me.
Likely story.
I'm definitely in a cult that worships burritos.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that said, thank you everybody for watching. Renee, any last comments before we go?
Don't go in the fucking basement.
No, never go in the basement. All right, everybody. Love you all. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you January 3rd. Take care.
To all my twin flame.
To all your twin flames.